This week there were quite a few readings. The first one being by Amy O'Leary. It was a blog post in the New York Times called "An Honour for the Creator of the GIF," and basically it was discussing the fact that Steve Wilhite, who invented the GIF, has just won a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Webby Awards, so that was in May 2013, and she just kind of discusses the GIF in its entirety when it was invented, which was 1987, so in fact it's 25 years old, but it's just won Word of the Year in 2012. She discussed them as a platform for anything, so they could be political commentary, digital art, celebrity intrigue. They kind of can be used for anything, and they are used for anything. David Michael Davids, who is the executive director of the Webby Awards, he called them an incredibly enduring piece of technology, which is obvious because they've lasted for 25 years. The way the internet has changed in the last 25 years is massive. It's nowhere near like it was in the 80s. And one of the things that the writer discusses is the way that GIF is pronounced, and actually it's pronounced with a soft G, so I should be calling it a GIF instead, which I didn't know before. So the second reading is GIF or GIF Today by Daniel Rubin, and he kind of discusses the fact that the GIFs were invented in 1987, but they're still around today. So he says that technology repeats itself twice, first as a breakthrough and then as nostalgia, which kind of helps to explain how the GIF has re-emerged and got like big again. And before GIFs, computers were kind of motionless and still, which can kind of help to explain why they were so popular at first and why they got so big, because they kind of changed the way computers worked and people interacted with computers too. And he discusses the GIF as a minor art form, saying that it doesn't owe its existence to the binary oppositions between image and matter, or form and content that dominate the discourses of art and photography. And he asked if a GIF removes all the photograph of meaning, because it loses its truth value when it's animated, which I guess is true because it's manipulating the picture, so it's not as real as it would have been in real life because it's making it move. The third reading was another piece in the New York Times by Alex Williams, and it was called Fresh from the Internet's Attic. And it just discusses GIFs and their re-emergence and why. So it talks about Tumblr, and there's whole pages dedicated to GIFs, which for loads of different fan bases. I mean, ones that I could think of are like Breaking Bad, Doctor Who. Their fans are big on all GIFs and stuff, and they kind of make it into like it's a new form of fan fiction almost, because they can take different pictures and make up their own scene almost. And they're also instant. Like every time something big happens, you can, like just an hour later, there'll be all millions of different GIFs kind of poking fun at it or explaining it, or putting a different spin on the events straight away on the internet. And he says that in a world where so much daily communication takes place by text, GIFs are being used by web geeks as a visual way to drive home a written point. So it's a bit like the emoticons that you used to have on MSN. You used to have all those big ones that would come up when you typed a word, so you could have a whole sentence in flashing things and glittery things and things that move. So it's just kind of another way of communicating, really. And he calls them glorified emoticons. And they've gained cultural currency just from their immediacy. So they're a way of like showcasing a cultural moment, and sometimes the GIFs of the moment become just as big as the moment itself. And it's a GIF festival in honour of its 25th birthday, held by Tumblr and Paddle 8, which is an online auction website. It's called Moving the Still. And the Museum of the Moving Image in Queens in New York has been looking at installations of GIFs, and has got like a whole section, a whole thing presenting GIFs to like a wider device. And the director of the museum has linked them to the 19th century culture, where they had like little bursts of loop emotion on a zoetrope. So the final reading this week was called Inside the GIF-Industrial Complex, How the Animated Image Took Over the Internet by Chadwick Matlin. And he discusses a man called Mike Kongsal, I think I said that right, who explained the US job market situation via GIFs. And so we looked at that, and it kind of takes a really hard topic that is not going to appeal or not going to be understood by a lot of people, and just putting it through GIFs, it makes it more simple and more easy to read and more accessible to a lot of people. And more than 100,000 people have already seen the post, and I think it only went up recently. And so Matlin says that hypnotising amidst a web of distraction, the GIF has evolved from an obscure file format to an art movement to a page view crutch. And it's kind of become known for the fact that it moves and kind of makes it different, because there's memes everywhere, but a GIF is a bit more interesting, a bit more they're a bit hypnotic, you can't help but watch it. And he discusses how they're kind of opt out rather than opt in, because they're repetitive. You always see it, you always see the whole thing, so you have to kind of take yourself away from it to avoid it rather than choosing it, really. And they've kind of become industrialised, so people put them on website and they lead to traffic, which then leads to money, so it's kind of become a bit commercialised and stuff like that. And another sign of that is Vine. You can repeat stuff on Vine, but it's a video, it's not a GIF, but that's owned by Twitter, and so it makes them a lot of money and that sort of stuff. And like those Vines are really big now, and they can be made by anyone on just on your phone, so it's really easy. So that was week 5 readings, and I think maybe I found them really interesting, but the thing maybe that I learned the most, and I can't help but keep saying it, is the fact that it's not called a GIF, it's called a GIF. It just kind of comes out. And I didn't realise that they were so old. I didn't realise that they were invented in 1987. I thought it was a modern phenomenon. So I found that really interesting to find out.